Dr. Shankar, Mrs. Veena Rao, Shri Salil Kumar, Srimati Jalaja, very respected and distinguished participants. After hearing Srimati Rao's presentation, a very professional analysis of, I feel a little diffident. It's a intimidating audience. And you have perhaps brought in a shipwright to perform a church rite. I am an extinguished judge. I retired some 20 years ago. I did not sell an opinion. I did not do an arbitration. I did not receive a pie from either a litigant or a potential litigant or even the government, which I served for some time after retirement. When I was in the Human Rights Commission, we had the assistance of some of the most competent officers. One of them is here. Srimati Jalaja was a very conscientious and devoted human rights activist. At some point of time, we found that in Thane, Raigad area, the under 5 malnutrition was so explosive, and one sweep of infection would kill hundreds of them. We set up a team of perhaps the most competent men and women. I think Dr. Professor Ramalingaswamy headed that commission. We wanted him to advise us. And ultimately, they worked out a beautiful plan, almost like the one which Mrs. Rao mentioned about a mission mode. And they tied up with an institution, Canadian Micronutrient Foundation. They came up with a big plan. Perhaps the attractiveness of the plan was its unmaking. It contemplated a number of visits of Indian officials to Canada in exchange to discuss the matter and develop these things. And then a turf war broke out between 3 ministries. The Women and Child Ministry said, it's our baby. Suddenly they began to own an illegitimate child. The Health Ministry said, it's our prerogative. Tribal Affairs said, Raigad and Thane are tribal areas, it's our business. The fight was so sickening, I wrote to the Prime Minister that I have called it off because we had no mandate to execute it. We had only the responsibility to suggest, make a recommendation. And that was it. And we didn't hear of it anymore because I suggested to the Prime Minister, why don't you have a nodal agency of all the 3 ministries so that they could share the booty and they could also, and of course the ministries were most unrelenting. And the 3 ministers whom we requested to meet us, I think Srimati Maneka Gandhi was one of the ministers, Ram Jethmalani, all of them came to us, to the commission. They owed their support, but nothing happened. I think this mission mode, which Srimati Rao mentioned, she was a senior IAS officer when I was judge in the Karnataka High Court. She was the most feared administrator. And every time complaints came, this Kashmiri woman is very... and I know several cases in which she was hauled up across the coals and came to the High Court. But she stood her ground. She is a very stubborn person. And that explains my hauling up my creaky old bones across the subcontinent to be here. I was to be here yesterday. Yesterday, Mr. Amjad Ali Khan was my colleague in the Sarvodaya International Trust. We have been together for the last 20 years. He performed in Bangalore, and she wanted me to preside over that function. So I had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, get myself ready, rush to the airport by 6. The airport is far away in Bangalore. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a matter which as I say, this is a thing which holds a mirror to our souls and tells us what we really are. The informative background paper raises this question: why is malnutrition situation in India so serious today, even worse than sub-Saharan Africa with regard to certain indicators? And why have several ongoing programs failed to make a dent in the problem? Reference is made to the elaborate extant programs, the ICDS, midday meal program, immunization program, Sabala adolescent girl program, vitamin supplement program, National Nutrition Anemia Control Program, National Iodine Deficiency Disorder Control Program, National Rural Drinking Water Program, Total Sanitation Program, and all this we have seen. And the iodine deficiency program was one of those which was really had a remarkable thing. One of my very close friends, he was a professor of endocrinology in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. The genius of that program is that they found a means of delivering the iodine supplement to the children. If you give them pills, they won't take it. In the Terai area, the children and their culture, education background is that if you give them pills, they won't use it. So the genius of the program consisted in loading salt. The average consumption would be about 10 to 12 grams. So they appropriately loaded salt with iodine. And iodized salt, the means of delivery, that's the genius of the program. And my friend Dr. Kochu Pillai was given a Padma Award for what he did. Then this mission mode, the other day I was with Mr. Sam Petroda. He had this telecommunication mission. The remarkable success that it did is an eye-opener to us. In fact, somebody said France was in the same stupid condition as we were in the mid-80s so far as the telephone system was concerned. It was even said in France, half of Frenchmen were waiting for their telephone connections. The other half were waiting for their dial tone. And today, the system is such that if I send a message, internet to my son in America, reply comes yesterday. Because in America, it is yesterday. So this is the kind of miracle that we have been able to achieve in some of these areas. And why we have failed in this essentially human civilizational issue is something which we can't understand. I attribute it entirely to corruption of the mind, and the kind of laxity taken for granted. In fact, after retired, I ran a free outpatient legal clinic for some time. And I had to close it down because I couldn't bear to listen to the stories of harassment of innocent people in courts. One gentleman told me of a case. I told him, how can you hold court on this issue? He said, sir, there are 70 adjournments. I have attended the court. It's Dr. Ali Khwaja is a motivational speaker, and he, for a stupid thing, it took 70 adjournments. 70 times he had to go and attend court and pay the lawyer. Ultimately, it was a stupid case, and you can make a case foolproof, but it's very difficult to make it judge-proof. That's the problem was after 70 cases, then I requested a lawyer to go and shout in the court. He did, and the judge discharged him immediately. This is the system that we have, the worst system. The biggest millstone around the neck of our society is our judicial system, the criminal justice system. And of course, there are very competing systems in the government which vying with each other to be first in this race for inefficiency and corruption. These programs address some causes of malnutrition, but not all of them have pragmatic systems and contain coverage gaps. In the absence of a seamless and simultaneous intervention, gains accruing from existing, dispersed, and often isolated interventions are lost on account of absence of other critical interventions. I quote Ms. Rao. She says, she is the advisor to the Karnataka Nutrition Mission. She comments, the focus has rightly shifted to the intersectoral approach, but it is precisely at this point that the discussion gets stuck. In the absence of a national program, this is the crux of the thing. In the absence of a national program with a intersectoral template, this is perhaps how you put it across in execution is the thing. The idea is a national program with an intersectoral template to be carried out in a mission mode. This perhaps is what I request you to all think and provide to government. If you say you do this, they will take 10 years to develop a program. It will another 10 years to discuss it, another 10 years to forget it. So if you are able to provide a package and demonstrate it through a NGO initiative in some area, possibly we are very good at copying. We can certainly make use of it, and of course, make sure, don't take credit for it. Give credit to the government. Otherwise, there are such jealous people, they will kill it because somebody is getting credit for it. And NGOs and philanthropic institutions genuinely keen to work in this field find it difficult without a design or a format to guide them. Strong national programs with well-defined structures, such as the education and health sectors, provide a fulcrum for non-governmental philanthropic organizations to provide partnership without complication. The absence of a national program, these are her words, not mine. The absence of a national program addressing malnutrition prevents such a partnership platform from existing and results in an information void regarding what interventions are essential and how best to undertake them. The problem of infant and under 5 mortalities, maternal mortality, malnutrition, drinking water, sanitation issues are civilizational issues. They hold a very important place in the national agenda today. India has slipped in its Human Development Index from 128th position in 2007 to 136 in 2013. India is behind China, South Africa, Bangladesh in infant mortality and under 5 mortality rates. States of Tamil Nadu and Gujarat have significant similarities, but very significant dissimilarities. Literacy rates, even female literacy rates, are comparable in the two states. But while infant mortality is 28 in Tamil Nadu It is 48 in Gujarat. Under 5 mortality in Tamil Nadu is 35, while it is 61 in Gujarat. In China is a case of striking and impressive advancement in this area. Infant mortality is 16, something like our Kerala. Under 5 mortality is 18. Maternal mortality is an impressive just 37 in China. In contrast, the figures are 48, 63, 200 respectively in India. In the 40s of the last century, maternal mortality rates, as the Bohr Committee said, was alarming at 2,000 per lakh of childbirths. In the 50s, the Mudaliar Committee said it came down to 1,000, half. But in Europe it was single digit, 8, 10, and we had 1,000 in the 50s, owing to the invention of penicillin. Penicillin was in those days perhaps one of the most beautiful things that happened to humanity. The story is said Churchill fell ill with a pneumonia of both lungs. There's no known medication which would treat them. They would put some kind of fermentation and antiphlogistin or some such thing. I remember in the 40s, my own younger brother was almost lost. There's no antibiotic for that. Churchill was about to die, and his wife, Mrs. Churchill, won't give up. She asked, is some research going on somewhere in the world about some medicine for this? Somebody said there's one gentleman who's doing, who's that man who invented penicillin? Fleming. He was an Englishman. He was doing work in America. When his name was mentioned, Churchill said, I saved him from a drowning accident. Please contact him, even if it is in trial state. At trial state, even before clinically established, the medicine was sent from America. That saved Churchill's life. That's a recorded thing. Actually, Alexander Fleming was the man. He was an Englishman. It appears Churchill had saved him in a drowning accident in which... so this is the penicillin did the trick, and it became today it is 200 in India. It's 1/5 of what it used to be in the mid-50s. And the figures are single-digit figures in Europe. And I don't know how to... At 200, it's now 1/5 of what it was 50 years ago. But the public confidence is often undermined by lack of faith in official statistics. Sarkozy Commission, in fact, Sarkozy known for many things, many romantic things, but there's one sensible thing he did. He set up a commission with 3 Nobel laureates. Stiglitz was there, Amartya Sen was there, there's a French economist. Their report is Measurement of Economic Performance and Social Progress. In that report, they speak of the credibility of statistics. Sarkozy Committee says, in some countries, this gap has undermined confidence in official statistics. In France and in the United Kingdom, only 1/3 of the citizens trust official figures. And these countries are not mere exceptions, with clear impact on the way in which public discourse about conditions of the economy and necessary policies takes place. The statistics are the most suspect aspect of our measuring our social progress. This underscores the philosophy of economic development itself. International economic order, based on free market economy, has its own grand inequities. It produces a lot of wealth, but it produces unacceptable levels of inequality. An unequal society lives under a constant dread of an impending disaster. And this is exactly what happens in this kind of economic order. It is fierce in its competitive ruthlessness. Joseph Stiglitz spoke about them in his book, Roaring '90s, and in another book, Globalization and Its Discontents. And that made the UNDP to say this kind of growth, they called it the cliche everyone knows, what fun is made of it. This kind of growth is ruthless, rootless, voiceless, jobless, and futureless growth. This is the kind of growth that we have now come to accept. Amartya Sen speaks of differing attitudes to the process of development. One view, according to him, sees development as a fierce process with much blood, sweat, and tears. A world in which wisdom demands toughness. He said this is a kind of a developmental milieu in which a lot of toughness is required. In particular, it demands calculated neglect of various concerns that are seen as soft-headed. This hard knocks attitude contrasts with the alternative outlook that sees development as essentially a friendly process. Depending on the particular version of this attitude, the congeniality of the process is seen as exemplified by such things as mutually beneficial exchanges, of whom Adam Smith spoke so eloquently, or by working of social development, or some combination or other of these supportive activities. Democratic governance and human development have an intimate interrelationship. Good governance is the largest single input in the fight against poverty and malnutrition. Participatory decisions are at the heart of human development. An inclusive democracy, not a mere numerical, statistical, majoritarian version of democracy, is the single most significant factor in this process of human development. There is a paradigm shift in development discourse when the trickle-down theory was interrogated, where it was posited that the alternative thinking posited that social gains such as health, education, human security are not the gains of economic reforms, but economic gains were the outcome of social reform. This kind of paradigm shift in thinking was perhaps responsible for a change of attitude on many social issues. In the report of the Commission on Measurement of Economic Performance, Social Progress, it was published in 2009, I think. The commission was set up in 2008, and I think 2009 or 10, the report came. It said, we are now living in one of the worst, this is the report says, we are now living in one of the worst financial, economic, and social crises in post-war history. Reforms in measurement recommended by the Commission would be highly desirable even if we had not had the crisis. The first main message of our report, the Commission says, is that time has come to adopt our system of measurement of economic activity to better reflect the structural changes which have characterized the evolution of modern economies. Another key message of the report and underlying theme is that time is ripe for our measurement system to shift emphasis from measuring economic production to measuring people's well-being. This is the foundation for the approach to the issues that we have on our hand. And measures of well-being should be put in context of sustainability. Despite deficiencies in our measures of production, we know much more about them than well-being. We don't know much about our well-being and sources of our well-being. Will Durant called civilization a social order which promoted cultural creation. 4 elements constituted: economic provision, political organization, moral tradition, and the pursuit of knowledge and the arts. It begins, he said, where chaos and insecurity end. When fear is overcome, curiosity and constructiveness are free, and man passes by a natural impulse towards understanding and embellishment of life. This important part of embellishment of life is the way in which we treat the underprivileged, particularly children, with the potential future. This century, in terms of advances in science and technology, will be a stunning century. If the 20th century was 100 years of science and technology, 21st would in comparison, be 20,000 years of science, the foundations for which have already been laid. Medical science hopefully will provide adequate answers to problems of health, but national policies with supportive delivery mechanisms are the most important, are the key. Only 15% of the world is technologically innovative. 50% of the world is able to assimilate the innovations, but 35% of the world is technologically disconnected. Jeffrey Sachs wrote a piece called The New Map of the World, in which he has drawn a line, an east-west line, above Gujarat and below Orissa, and says the whole of North India above this line is technologically disconnected. And this is the way in which we must perceive the potential ability, the potential for assimilating the gains of science. Only, and whatever has been discussed, we are going to discuss now, has been discussed any number of times in any number of fora. And I think that darkness at noon, he said, all this has been said again and again before, but it has to be said again because nobody seems to listen. This consultation will hopefully suggest some effective breakthroughs to an urgent human problem which tends to become banal by reason of stereotype speculations. Thank you very much for your patience.